Okay, so we have got our oil filter, and very helpfully a new sump plug and a new gasket or crush washer or whatever your specific car requires. So with this, it's come with almost a rubberized gasket rather than an aluminium or copper crush washer. If you don't replace the, let's say, washer when you do an oil change on a vehicle, it's more apt to leak. That means you're more likely to give it a bit more tightening up because you don't want it to leak, and you'll damage those threads, or most likely actually you'll damage the sump threads. So ideally a new sump bolt with washer. Really importantly, for a wet belt model, we're not going to go into all the ins and outs of the daftness of a wet belt. Make sure you're using the spec. Where are we? The spec, oh, for crying out loud, of your vehicle's service handbook. The exact stuff, or if you can find a later oil that, if you like, Ford now recommend, do that. But do not with wet belts be of the opinion that oil is oil. These belts absolutely require the correct grade of oil for longevity, and they require that oil to be not too contaminated, and that means regular oil changes. My 2019 model actually in the service book, I believe, says something like 30,000 mile intervals. Now Ford did drop that, I think, the following year to a little bit less. Most people on these vans are going for 10 to 15,000 mile service intervals, and this van has had, it varied, but mostly around 10 to 15,000 mile oil changes. The wet belt was changed at 80,000 miles and all was well. But I can't stress enough, regular oil changes, using, very importantly, the correct oil for your van. Anyway, let's crack on. So there's no under tray on here. Straight away, saving yourself some time. Most modern cars do have under trays now. Whatever method you use, however you jack it up, even if you're just using the jack that comes with it, using axle stand, blocks of wood, something to make sure all the weight isn't on that jack. If it does give way, it's your head that's going to get crushed. So we have got a sump nut. This van's already warm. You want a warm engine if possible. The oil's thinner, it runs faster, drags more dirt out the engine as it flows out. What I often do, if the engine's stone cold, I just crack that off a tiny bit, and I just turn the oil filter a tiny bit, because often they're easier to undo if they're over tightened when they're cold than when they're at sort of a warmer temperature. And then I'll warm the engine on the drive. But this has just come back for a run, so we're going to crack off the sump plug, and we're going to, well, where are we? Hold on, there we are. We're gonna take off the oil filter and let that all drain out. But first, here's your dipstick. Just release the oil filler cap. It's going to let air in as the oil drains out. It's going to flush out faster, and again, take more impurities with it. Keep the bolt sump plug pressed in till you get to the last thread. Keep it pressed in so nothing drips out, and then once it's right, undone, all in one go, so it doesn't run up your arm. You've got the filler cap off. It's letting air into the system and letting it flush out much faster. So this van's been previously serviced under warranty at a garage, and really annoyingly, probably because I've used the same gasket on the sump plug, it's absolutely covered in gasket seal to stop it leaking. Again, use a new seal, use a new gasket or a new sump plug washer. Save all that silly messing around and afterthought. Normally, I'll drop the oil filter oil into the same catch tank, but these vehicles hold a lot of oil. Look at that, it's absolutely brimming. So we're going to empty out the dirty oil before we remove the oil filter. Easier tip, use a bigger catch tray for sure. I'm fucked, I want out of a van. Fucking hell. Honestly, mechanics are just shit, aren't they? Honest to God. No. It's just like the oil filter. I've had oil filters that don't want to come off, but this is just.
You've got oil over your shoes, so don't walk about anywhere with them on.
Got oil over everything now.
Oh, I'm going to go here and eat this. I love you.
I love you, baby.
How's it comes off?
Yeah, well, oil everywhere now. You know, what an arsehole. Okay, despite my wife's best efforts to pacify me, this got really annoying. My van's been to the same garage I've trusted for a long time. I'll tell you more about that later, but someone has either massively over-tightened this oil filter and or not lubricated the gasket when they fitted it. I've worked on so many cars and I have many times had to reduce to a big screwdriver all the way through the oil filter, not too near the top end, you don't want to hit the threads. It's got to go all the way through and come out the other side. You don't want the pointy end of the screwdriver as you turn it to obviously damage anything in that tight space. So feel with your finger, you just want the tip to just come through the other side. And you're using this big, it needs to be a big screwdriver and a sturdy one as a lever. This is terrible workmanship from the previous mechanic. I've never ever had an oil filter ever as tight as this one. It is ridiculous. Ooh. Clean the face of the oil filter housing. Run clean or used oil around the gasket. Do not put these on dry. This car's been serviced at my garage from new because it's under warranty. It's still got an oil leak that they were supposed to fix from when they changed the cam belt. The sump plug has got gasket seal all around it, and that's the toughest oil filter I've ever had to remove, and I've had some awkward swines. Really, these should come off by hand, or an oil filter tool. Shouldn't take much doing. That was utterly ridiculous. Not very happy. I've got oil leaking on rubber hoses. I've got oil leaking very close to an auxiliary belt. This is because they didn't do a good enough job when they changed the wet belt. Presumably it's one of the seals. Some of the sealant hasn't gone off properly, who knows. They said they'd fixed it, and I think they've just slapped sealant everywhere, possibly bollocked the oil filter up even tighter. I don't know what, I don't think that'll solve it, but make sure you lubricate that rubber gasket. Clean the face. Spin your oil filter on. Now, without covering it oil, when the gasket touches the face, do it by hand, maybe another half a turn, maybe a bit more. Do it by hand, tight, but not really tight. Do not use a tool to tighten it up. Hopefully it will come off next time. Don't drop the sump plug in the oil, and ideally use a new sump plug, as we mentioned, with a new gasket, a new crush washer, whatever, for your vehicle. We're doing a 2019 2-litre Eco Blue Transit Custom. So I've done that up tight. This is so full it's ridiculous. Make sure you cover your driveway before you start this. My driveway doesn't matter at the moment, it's had it, needs replacing. A little oil spot here and there, not a problem. It's now got a lake of oil on it because of that fiasco. Don't use a really long bar on your socket set or a Hilti gun. Just use a normal socket or a spanner. The longer the bar, the longer the spanner, the more torque, the more likely to strip the threads equally. Why not use a torque wrench and torque it up to the correct torque? Tight, but do not over tighten. So what I'm going to do now is just get a rag and clean up under the engine a reasonable amount because there's so much oil here. Use a clean funnel. These vans have got a really small filler cap, not a big, easy to pour oil in hole like in the olden days. A small filler cap. Use a funnel, take your time, don't pour it everywhere. Nice and easy. Takes a lot of oil, but don't forget to check, don't overfill. So the dipstick's full, about 9 litres, but now we're going to run the engine, fill the oil filter, and then top up. So you can see, now the oil filter's filled, we do need a bit more. Take your time, top up, check, top up. You don't want that dipstick over full. A little bit less is probably better than too much more. Keep it nice and clean and tidy. Looks perfect, but I would then give it a day or so, check the level again on level ground, check everything's done up tight when the engine's running, check you've got no leaks, and then clear up the mess which you should not have made. I'm pretty good at this. I don't normally make a mess when I do an oil change. My driveway doesn't matter, so I didn't protect it. But look at that. From that fiasco with that oil filter. Decant your oil catch into some empty receptacles, dispose of them down your local amenities in the correct manner. Now if you need to reset the service light on your dashboard with the engine ignition off, hold down the brake pedal and the accelerator pedal at the same time, turn the ignition on without actually starting the engine, hold your feet down for 40 seconds, turn the ignition off, let go of the pedals, turn the ignition back on and start the vehicle, and that little spanner or counter should be reset.